yeah, you've just got that back button, and you've also got the search button. So search is where you go to perform any one of those searches. Now, based on permissions, you might only have access to a limited number of searches here, but yeah, I guess one of the key ones here is your individual search. So searching for a client within the system. This is also where you'll begin. So this is where now we're getting more into process. So this is where you'll begin if you need to add a new client or even just search the system for an existing client. So this is that process your counseling coordinators will do when adding a new client. They'll come into this search, they'll click, well, before they even click Intake Wizard, they'll be searching just to make sure that client doesn't already exist. So, I always personally recommend doing 4 separate searches here. So you'd start, if it was say Mickey Mouse, I'd start with their last name. And you can't kind of do both at once. So you can't go like Mickey space mouse, that's going to give you no results. So you do need to do them kind of in separate searches. So you start off with the last name. Okay, I've got some mouse, I've got some results there. So based on just what I'm seeing here, I might be able to identify, yep, that this Mickey Mouse's details match the one I'm adding now. So yep, that's the client I'm looking for, and if so, I can go into their existing profile or case and then simply just add a new service file within their existing case file. So that's if they're an existing client. If I've done my 4 searches, so firstly, last name, first name, and then I would move on to date of birth, and lastly, phone number. They're kind of like the 4 I recommend: first, last, date of birth, and phone number. Cool. So if I'd done all 4 of those searches and I still hadn't found the client in the system, then I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to be creating a duplicate. I'm 100% sure they don't exist in the system. So that's when you can add a new client profile. And to do that, you'd be clicking Intake Wizard. So Intake Wizard, and then going through and filling out the demographic details. So first name, I might just use my other favorite example, Harry Potter. Yeah, and filling out all those demographic details, date of birth. Their address details as well. So address 1, 2, city, province, country, postcode. Not sure what it would be. I'll just make a random one up there. And then, yeah, so site, if it's main site or off-site, relationship. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the Intake Wizard not only creates the individual or the client profile, but it also creates the case as well. So what this is saying is, what's this person's relationship within that overall case file? In this case, yeah, because it's the primary client, you'd probably just set them as being self. But if you were adding additional clients into that same case, you could say, okay, this person is the father, this person is the wife, etc., etc. Contact and communication instructions. So this is where, yep, you can enter those details. So whatever you have, probably have a mobile number. You can say if you want to, if they've given consent for you to use that contact method or not. So that's that little tick box there. And also some additional communication instructions. It might be like, okay to leave voicemail. And then, yeah, they might also have an email address, which might be a personal email address. So you can put that in as well. And it's that email address that you add here that will feed in with, Engage and Client Connect. So yeah, just be aware that, yeah, that will kind of feed in with that. The other thing that feeds in with that is this client consents to receive. So this is where you say, yep, they consent to receive emails via that email address. And you're saying, yep, they consent to receive emails for all these different types of communications. So event confirmations, event updates, any sort of billing communications, etc. So yeah, that by doing that, you're basically enabling them in Engage. Then we've got other information. So this is all coming from, the configuration that we went through. So these were the sorts of things you wanted to capture in the intake wizard. So, who's the global partner? That's one I've added in recently because I kind of identified a need to have that one in there. So we've got that one. Company name. Oh, okay. You've added a company name in there by the looks. That's a new one. Haven't seen that one before. Yeah, employer name, etc. Marital status, etc. So just be aware any changes you're making to these sorts of drop downs. Yeah, I mean, we just need to make sure we've got that change in production as well, because yeah, basically that's the reason why all changes were kind of going through me, because I was making them in both production and implementation. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. Anyway, you go through, enter all your demographics in here. They might have a risk flag at this point, so you might say Amber, etc. They might have a middle name, etc. There's also this self-pay to flag them as a self-pay client, and that's because we've got an action trigger set up which will notify the finance team when a self-pay prepayment comes in. So it's just to do with that action trigger that we've set up. So you could say, yep, this person's self-pay. You can also associate a collateral contact to this individual. So you might say, yep, this is the client's emergency contact, and provide details in there. It might be Ron Weasley. And in this case, because it's kind of like the client's emergency contact and it's kind of, I guess, private to that individual, it's likely that you're going to make them a private contact so that they don't appear within that blue book. You can also add how to contact them. So it might be a mobile number. Just remember to hit the plus sign to plus it in. And also the address details for that collateral contact as well, if you wanted to. It's not required. Any additional notes about this collateral contact? And then, whether or not you want to add them to that pre-enrollment wait list. So I think by default it's ticked and it kind of brings in these details, but if you didn't want to add them to the pre-enrollment, you'd untick that and not add them. And that's where, you can be like, okay, what's the reason why you're adding them to pre-enrollment? You might still be processing their application, that might be awaiting continuation of their pro bono, etc. The service that they're waiting for, you can specify as well. It will show any groups in here as well. So that's just a group that's been created. And the caseworker, if you know the caseworker who you're going to assign at this point. A priority, you can't change those priorities. Well, you can set it, but you can't change this list. So if it's really urgent, you might say, yep, this is a really urgent one. The date they were put on the list, and that's it there. So I mean, in this case, I might just not add them to the pre-enrollment list. You can also add any other family members or related people by ticking this box, and so then you can enter their details on the next page. But in this case, we'll say it's just the one person, so we'll go next. And there's some additional, intake notes you can add here. And then, you're presenting, so you can specify 5 intake, I guess, intake presenting issues here. So, and this is like a preset list of presenting issues. So what I'd probably recommend here, because you may not know the options that are available within there, so you can just kind of type in, you know, A, for example, and then click this show all button here. So you can go show all, and then you're going to get your full list of presenting issues. You can also restrict the results here based on the grouping. So you might only want to see, you know, Optum related presenting issues. So you can say, yep, I only want to see Optum ones, click go, and now you're only seeing the ones that relate to Optum. Yeah, so that's your presenting issues. You can obviously also just start typing in, and you can, yeah, just select it from the list. You can do that as well. You just probably want to be a little bit aware of the grouping before you select it from the list, so that, yeah, you know, making sure you're selecting the correct presenting issues from the correct grouping. I'll just add a couple in there just so we can see what it looks like. So yeah, we'll say this is an Optum person. Might have been a relationship one. I'll go show all, think it'll be easier. Here we go. So we'll just go that one. Just a couple, just so you can see what it looks like, and finish. And so now, yeah, we can see the intake wizard has done both of those things for us. It's created the case, and it's also created the individual. So if we go to intake summary, we can see there, that's where those presenting issues sit that we added before, and also the intake note sits there as well. Now, briefly, as I mentioned before, at various locations throughout Penelope, you've got this messages tab. So if you ever want to start a discussion with another worker, you can click start discussion and start that discussion with the other worker. So, you know, it's basically the followers. So, you know, it might be, I'm starting a discussion with Jess and Elle. So I'd add them in. And then, you know, it's like basically like sending an email really. So what's the priority? What type is it? Is it just an administrative discussion, or is it a clinical related discussion? And then, yeah, a subject line and a body. Whatever it might be, you know, and then, yeah, just as an example. Something like that, and then that's going to send that message, you know, to those workers. So we could go save, and you can see, so it keeps the log of those messages. So if you ever needed to, you know, do an audit or whatever, you can see those messages, you know, in that audit. You can, so when it comes to auditing, you can run this report called the complete case profile report. But when you run that report, you've got the option of including and excluding certain components. So you can always say, you know, I don't want to include workflows. I don't want to include communications, that sort of thing. So, yeah. But yeah, the good thing about this is you get that log of all the messages that have been sent. You can also start a communication directly to the client from here. So start client communication, specify the client you're sending it to, and yeah, whether it's a notification, so just a one-way notification, like a reminder to say, can you bring these resources to your next session, or it could be a discussion, which means it opens it up to that two-way, you know, they can actually reply to that message. And then you give it the subject line and the body and send that message. If you wanted multiple workers to kind of be across that messaging, you can also add those workers as followers as well. So there's your messages tab. Other things at the case level, obviously all of your clients who are associated to this case. Documents, if you've got any documents associated to the case level, you'd fill them out here. Referrals, you can record referrals here. It's probably better to record referrals unless it's an inbound referral. If it's an inbound referral, you could record it at the case level. But if it's like an external referral, probably better at the service file or event level. But yeah, referrals basically just, again, that's available at various levels throughout Penelope, and it's just a case of clicking the little add button, saying the referral direction. So is it an inbound referral coming into InTouch? Is it a outbound internal referral? So from one InTouch service to another InTouch service, kind of like that internal referral. Or is it an outbound external referral from InTouch to a totally third-party separate agency? They all function pretty similarly. The only difference is that if it's an internal referral, you have the option of adding the client back to the pre-enrollment list as well. So you imagine if you're referring from one service to another, that other service might not have capacity at the time to take that client on. So you could, you've got that option to add them to the wait list as well. But yeah, basically, it's just, the type of referral, and then your name and other details. So key thing about, I guess, anytime you're doing a referral, collateral contact, or just adding to the Blue Book, is that you're kind of typing in, the name of whatever it is you're referring to. And if it pops up in the list, you want to be selecting it from the list, because you don't want to create like a duplicate entry within the Blue Book. So ideally, if it's already there, you'd be using what's already there. So if you select one from the list, it automatically brings in the details. If you're adding a brand new one, which you can do, you obviously go through and enter those details. You can say a reason for that referral, additional services needed, needing long-term care, etc. Date for the referral, whether or not the client actually consented to that referral, whether or not it was an exit referral. So, they're leaving the service and you're referring them to that other service. And that's it there. So some additional details if you wanted to as well, client needs, client instructions. And if there's multiple people associated to that case, you can select to say that, this referral was actually for all the people involved in this case, if you needed to. Finish. And now we've got that referral entry completed. So you can also do things like add some notes against that entry, add some messages against that entry. You can also come back in and record the follow-up details. So if I edit it now, I can say that, the outcome was the client declined the referral, or there was no capacity to accept the referral, whatever outcome to the referral, whatever it was, you can specify that. So it might be referral accepted. So so basically you contacted that agency and they said, we've accepted this referral. So you can just record that little piece of data. It's more a reporting thing. Later on, you'll be able to report to say, 90% of our referrals have been accepted, or whatever it might be. Okay, so that's that process for recording a referral. It's trying to work out. Yes, so if I go back, we created our case, our Potter case. So documents, referrals, reports. So complete case profile report is a good one when subpoenas and things are happening. You get that full printout of everything within the case. Billing info, attachments, workflows. So workflows, you can start internal workflows with other workers, or you can start client workflows. So that's where you can send the client a document to fill out. using a client workflow. Attachments are, just that, obviously just file upload. So you browse your computer for the file and you upload it against that client. So I mean, these tabs are available at various levels. It's just a case of thinking to yourself, okay, what's the most appropriate level for me to upload this, this information? The case and the individual profile are locations that, most people have access to. So I guess in a way it's a little bit more open, that info. If it's something that's more secure and only specific to that service, then you'd be adding it to the service file that you create. So at this point, we've added the client, we've got their case, we're going to add the service file. So you could either use the service wizard to not only book the service file, but also book the first session in as well. Or if you just wanted to create the service file, you can just use the add service file. Personally, I kind of like the add service file. It's just a little bit more simpler, and it's easy enough to book a session after you've created the service file anyway. So add service file, say which service it's for. At this point, it might be just a self-pay. The worker, we'll do Jess. Because Jess is a particular type of user, that's why Jess isn't appearing here. We'll use Jessica as an example. You can obviously specify a start date. You're probably not going to know an end date at this point, so it's more just that start date. And then you can specify your 3 presenting issues, for that service file. So this is now service file specific. So, you might have another one that gets added on here. We'll go. Say financial. Finish. And now you can see we've got our service file created. You can see the participants, you can see the presenting issues, and recent thing we did was this is the client a dependent? So if they are a dependent, you can tick that to say that they're a dependent. I mean, if I go, you've always got this kind of like path or breadcrumb. So this can kind of help with your navigation. We're currently at the service file level. If we wanted to go back up to that case level, we can click the name of the case here. So I can click there, back to the case level, and we've got our service file sitting there. It's got a green dot next to it, indicating that it's a currently open service file. So if we go into it, that's where I can start then booking my sessions, my client sessions. You might have like service specific documents that might get filled out here as well. You can record additional referrals here, etc. It's also where you'll be, associating billing information, so adding policies and things like that. So add under billing information, add one for Harry, and that's where you go to search for your funder. Again, it's one of these lookup lists, so you can, if you're not sure what's in there, you can kind of type in, click show all, and then you're going to see that full list of funders. You can do things like use the funder type to further narrow things down. But you'd specify the funder, and then you can specify the policy within that funder that's applicable to this client. So it might be that one. Next page, you're going on to enter additional details. Around that policy. I mean, this is a self-pay client, so you're probably, I doubt you'd be doing it for a self-pay client, but just to show you what it kind of looks like. You'd go through what's the member number by a payer. Are they currently active? What's the member number if applicable? What's the group number if applicable? And also a funder department. So this is where your departments come into play. And, so that means we've got no departments set up for the Manila Hospital Funder. So yeah, if we had departments and branches set up, they'd all appear here, and we can kind of classify this, yeah, I guess this policy under that particular department. Any additional notes you might want to put in next, it'll give you that summary of the policy, and then finish. And yeah, so final step is to apply that to the billing sequence of the service file. So, it can either do that by clicking this little minus sign here, or you can go back to the service file and just do it within the service file. But if I click that minus sign, it's saying, okay, service file billing sequence, and this is the policy we just created. So we're going to plus it in to add it to the billing sequence. You might also want to recalculate the service units as well, and that's if there's any existing service units, it's going to automatically recalculate the amounts and feed it in with the policy that we're adding. So we can save, and now that's done. So if I go back to my service file, under that billing information, I can now see that policy has been fully applied. So if I edit the sequence, I've got a minus sign, so I know it's already been fully applied to the service file. So that means whenever I add any cart items associated to that policy, it's automatically going to bill to that funder. Also got service unit fee override. If there was a particular cart item or multiple cart items where you just flat out just wanted to override the default amount and set it at a particular amount, you've got the ability to do that using the fee override. And it's just a case of selecting the applicable cart item, the adjustment reason, might be subsidized amount, and then the new amount for that cart item. So that means, whenever you add this, so the counselling appointment cart item, it'll automatically bill the $1,000 in this example. Attachments. So again, you're thinking about the level we're at the service file level. So it's only the workers who have been added that have access. So these attachments are more, service specific attachments, as opposed to, more generally accessible ones. Collateral contacts, you can also associate. So we had those on the individual profile. We've also got them on a service file level as well. So if there's collateral contacts relevant just to this specific service file, then you've got the option of adding those there as well. Lastly, workflow. So again, this is where you can add a new workflow task and assign it to a specific worker. Or you can create one directly to the client as well. So if it was to a worker, you could also do it to a group of workers. So that's based on your worker categories. Oh, hang on, should have the categories here. Where's our oh, it's drop down. Sorry, the drop down is the categories. So it might be all of your EAP staff. Oh, we don't have any in there at the moment. Let's say child and adolescent counsellors. Oh, what's going on? There we go. So they're our Gottman counsellors. So we've brought all of them in as followers. You can specify the type of workflow. So there's a few different types. General workflow, just general. You basically say if it's complete or not complete. New document means you're sending that person an actual document to fill out. Project and checklist are similar. So I'll start with checklist. So checklist is like a list of workflows. So it might be, complete this document, do this other task, do this, do that. So it's like a checklist. You tick each item off as you go. Project is the same as a checklist, but it's got a defined order. So you actually need to complete task 1 before you move on to task 2, task 3, etc. So it's got that chronological order to it. Review, similar to general, except you're marking it as either reviewed and approved, or reviewed and rejected. Approval, again, same sort of thing. It's like, approved or not approved, rejected. So they're the different types of workflows you can create. We've got some nice help articles around those to explain them in more detail. And so that's how you can create tasks and create like accountability around completing specific tasks. You can automate creation of these tasks as well using action triggers. So that's pretty much like most of the navigation there. You can create overall service file notes that apply on a service file wide scale. So you can use that notes tab there. Again, you got the messages tab. You can close the service file once the client finishes their service and it's time to close. So you specify a closure date and also a reason why you're closing the service file. Case resolved, and then some additional notes if you wanted to there. Booking sessions. So your counselor coordinator will book that first session. So they'll come into here, they'll click book new and go ahead and book that first session. This one, it's when it's kind of like in that
Question,
unconfirmed.
Michael.
Yep.
Who usually close the service file? Coordinator or the counselor?
Up to you guys. It's up to you.
But in most company that you handle, who closes the service file?
So I mean, I guess it's always going to be your coordinator booking the sessions because you've got that whole confirmation side of things.
So usually the coordinators create the service file and the coordinator should close the service file, right?
Sounds that way. It sounds that way to me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All good. So booking the session, you'd specify. So at this stage, it's just that unconfirmed session. So wherever you want to kind of book that one in, if there's any resources you need to book out as well, you might want to book out an actual room if it's a face-to-face session, or like a Zoom account. In this case, let's just say it's the counseling Zoom account we're booking. So we tick down there, we click down here and it automatically aligns itself. Okay, so we got the worker and we got the client. Obviously if you need to add additional workers and clients, you can do it from here. Just be a little bit careful if you are adding clients, because you might have 20 different John Smiths in the system. So, just making sure you're selecting the correct one, which means you might need to go to the actual profile and confirm what the actual unique ID number is for that profile. So that's the only caution I'd say here. You can add collateral contacts in as attendees for the event as well, Blue Book entries. You could add entire worker categories as well. And that might help you to see availabilities and things like that as well. So you can bring all that in, see everyone's availability in the calendar view down the bottom, and then just remove people who aren't going to be associated. So moving across the event details tab, this is where you can refine those details for the event. So what site is it occurring at? What date is it occurring on? The start time, the duration, the description for the event. So this is where, because this event is going to be appearing in Client Connect for the individual, you're going to want to be putting something in here, along the lines of, and this is where you might have a manual to kind of detail this a bit more. What would you put? This event is currently unconfirmed. Do not attend at this time. Something like that, like just more of a disclaimer for the client when they see it in Client Connect. And then, the event type. So at this stage, so we worked on all these different event types. So basically, I guess at this stage, it would be in that, offered stage. So whichever method you're using, and then the offered status there. So let's say this one's going to be a Zoom session. So it would be web offered. And that makes sense because we're booking out a Zoom account. And then also the location for the event. So you've got the option of saying that, yep, it's a video session link, and you can actually paste the Zoom link in there. So whatever ID it is for that session, book. And now we've got our first session booked in. So at this point, the client will see that session in Client Connect. Actually, before they'll see it in Client Connect, there's one more thing we need to do. So if we go to Harry's individual profile, we need to enable Client Connect for Harry. So, and this could have been done actually before we created the service file. So as long as you got the individual profile, you can do this step. So we go across to the message settings tab. As part of the intake wizard, we're able to enable them in Engage, but we can't enable them in Client Connect as part of that intake wizard. So we still need to come into here and create their Client Connect account. So Client Connect, create. Yep, that's the email address for their Client Connect account. Save. Okay, so you can't have the same email address being used for multiple people. So basically that's just because in my testing I've used the same email. As long as it's a different email, you'll be able to create that Client Connect account. Actually, I might be able to use, I got to remember because I've got a personal, oh, no, I want it's disappeared. That's okay. That's all right. I'll use, when we get to Client Connect, I'll just use a different user. I think it's just going to be easier that way. But so you'd enter their email, enable them in Client Connect. They'll receive an email saying, you need to click here to activate your Client Connect account. When they click on that, it just gets them to verify their date of birth, basically, and then it allows them to create their account. And once they've created that account, they'll see the payment. They'll see any payments sitting within that account. So if I go back to the service file, back to the event that we created. So at the moment, they won't see any payment because there's no cart item added. So the coordinator will also need to add this cart item in. So they'll need to go, okay, whatever's applicable here, maybe it's just a regular counseling appointment. So they'll need to add that in. Adds it in. And so as of now, that will appear within, that client's Client Connect account, and they'll be able to, pay for that session. So at this point, it's ready for the client to pay for it. Now, I'm just thinking, it would be nice to be able to do a proper example, but that's okay. I'll go back to another client I created earlier. I think Mickey's a good one. Yeah. So see my email address is being used for Mickey, so that's why I couldn't use it for the other client. So if I log into Client Connect for Mickey, I just need to work out how would I, okay, yeah, I think I'd be able to get to it from my emails. I'm just gonna pause that, go across to my emails and just find one for Mickey.
Michael,
Yep.
after this client connect, can we take a break and back at what?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yep. Like a 15-minute or half hour, up to you.
And half hour and lunch and back at one. Can we do that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yep, definitely.
Is that okay with you, El?
Yes, yes, I'm okay with it po.
Yeah, yeah. So after client connect session, then let's take a break and be back at one. Okay.
Yep, sounds good. All right,
Thanks. Thanks.
I'm just trying to find this email. Yep, that's good. So I'll stop my resume share. Okay, so yeah, if you, I'm hoping you can see my emails. So you can see in here, this is that first email the client will receive, when you activate their Client Connect account, saying, yeah, basically click here to activate your account. Yeah, so you'll do that. Yep, and it'll get them to, verify their date of birth. But yeah, so because we've already done it for Mickey,